Charles Vogel, The Art of Community: 7 Principles for Belonging. At some point, most of us have felt like outsiders, lonely in a crowd, out of sync with the people around us, or quietly wondering where we truly belong. Even in an age of constant digital connection, more and more people report feeling isolated, misunderstood, or unseen. The need for community is stronger than ever. Yet most of us were never taught how to build that community. Sure, we gather people for work, faith, or friendship. But too often, those groups remain thin, transactional, or short-lived. What if there were some kind of template you could follow for forging bonds that actually last? Well, you're in luck. In this blink, you'll discover 7 key principles that make communities thrive. By the end, you'll have a practical framework for turning a scattered group into a resilient, lasting community. What is community? 3 million people across 150 countries all do the same high-intensity CrossFit workouts. They're united by shared routines, symbols, and goals. But only some belong to a true community. That's because while the global CrossFit network connects millions, most members are still strangers. At CrossFit Oakland, though, something different happens. Members don't just train together, they genuinely care for one another. Trainers prioritize helping struggling athletes and explicitly welcome novices, those who don't know where to begin. Beyond mutual concern, communities are distinguished from normal groups by 5 key features. First, communities are built on shared values. CrossFit Oakland attracts people interested in high-intensity workouts. But members stay because of the community's deeper emphasis on health, safety, and respect for personal growth over pure competitiveness. Second, communities provide membership identity. They help individuals answer questions like, who am I? How should I act? What do I believe? In a cycling community, for instance, are members drawn in by fitness or adventure? Is a group for beginners, adults only, or serious racers? Third, communities require generosity. In enriching communities, people don't track favors or calculate cost-benefit ratios. They respond to late-night calls for help or show up when someone is struggling, because generosity signals true mutual concern. Fourth, strong communities carry moral prescriptions for behavior. These unspoken norms govern how members treat each other and uphold shared values. They answer questions like, what is intolerable? And who do we protect? Finally, communities create shared emotional languages. Melissa's firefighter community, for example, uses dark humor as emotional release. They can express that freely among themselves, but temper it around outsiders. These insider understandings create bonds and trust that don't require constant explanation. At the heart of every thriving community are these 5 key ingredients. Without them, what might look like a community is just another group of strangers sharing space. Boundaries and initiation. The author's friend Amanda belongs to a young mothers group in Massachusetts. The group restricts membership to mothers only, excluding fathers, pediatricians, and nannies. By doing this, they protect a space where mothers can share their struggles without fear of judgment. In The Art of Community Building, the boundary principle recognizes the need for clear lines between insiders and outsiders. This doesn't mean being exclusionary for its own sake. The goal is to create safety and trust among members. Without the clarity of boundaries, communities face an everything-nothing conundrum. If everyone belongs everywhere, then belonging becomes meaningless. Effective boundaries include exploration zones. outer ring activities where potential members can test the waters without committing. A community of elite chefs might host dinner parties where friends can attend, but only chefs can access the kitchen. This creates a clear hierarchy of access while letting outsiders glimpse what membership might offer. After crossing the boundary, new members experience an initiation, which marks the transition from outsider to insider. Ideally, it provides welcome, clarity, and a celebration of membership. Initiations don't require an elaborate ceremony. A personal letter or a telephone call can be enough. Peace Corps volunteers, for instance, receive a simple pin and swearing-in ceremony. The main thing is that the initiation is recognizable, an obvious passing from one stage to the next. Without clear initiation, newcomers remain perpetually uncertain about their status, and existing members can't tell who's truly committed. Sometimes, despite initiation, community members experience a crisis of belonging. That's the nagging feeling they don't really deserve their place in the community. Whether you're experiencing the crisis yourself or see it in someone else, the solution is simple. Extend invitations. When we invite others for coffee or to events, we establish our own belonging while affirming theirs. In other words, the invitation itself becomes evidence of membership. This creates a positive cycle where insiders help others feel secure, strengthening the entire community's foundation of trust and mutual recognition. Rituals. At the Sikh Golden Temple in Amritsar, India, volunteers prepare and serve free hut meals to over 30,000 visitors daily. Afterward, they're all invited to share hut chai together outside. Guests come from every religion, class, and background. These experiences at the Golden Temple show how ritualized activities can create bonds that transcend ordinary human differences. Rituals are practices that mark time or events as special and important. Think of the Turkish Sufi whirling dance performed at a sacred concert to reach a trance state, or the silent Quaker meetings which invite openness to the divine. Rituals give actions meaning and connect us to something larger than the present moment. You can create meaningful rituals by following a simple template, whether the ritual lasts 15 minutes or spans multiple days. Effective rituals begin with an opening that marks the transition from ordinary to sacred. It should include a statement of intention explaining why everyone has gathered, a reference to tradition or the start of a new one, and an explanation of what will happen. For example, consider a birthday blessing ceremony. The opening might welcome everyone and acknowledge their sacrifices. I know that some of you took off work, rearranged your schedules, and drove over to join us. It means so much that you've done this. Next comes a body of the ritual, which shares wisdom from sources important to the community. It also invites active participation rather than passive observation. In the birthday example, the ceremony might reference tradition by sharing passages from Thomas Merton and other historical figures. It could then explain the evening sequence, reading letters from absent friends, followed by symbolic seed planting and communal prayer. The ritual ends with a closing that affirms what's been completed or changed. It then marks the return to everyday life while connecting participants to the future. In the birthday ceremony, this might mean acknowledging the blessing that's been given and sending everyone off to share a celebratory meal. This simple structure, opening, body, and closing, transforms what could be an ordinary event into something sacred and meaningful. Temples. While rituals create meaning through action, temples provide the sacred spaces where these meaningful actions unfold. A temple is simply a place where people with shared values gather to enact their community's rituals. For example, there's a sacred Native American site on the California coast, marked by little more than wood huts and cleared ground. Yet it's powerful enough to draw Native Americans from far distances for rituals that might seem strange to outsiders. The beauty of sacred spaces lies in their adaptability. Any space can become temporarily sacred through intentional preparation. By adjusting boundaries, lighting, sound, clothing, and height, ordinary places transform into temples. A backyard used for grilling and playing can become sacred when particular people gather there for special purposes. Temples can be both major and minor. A minor temple is where members gather for smaller rituals. Take the CrossFit example again. Gyms turn into minor temples where members perform heavily ritualized workouts with gamified exercises and routines named after veterans. Meanwhile, the CrossFit Games competition functions as a major temple. CrossFit athletes gather to compete in activities that definitely seem weird to outsiders. Stripping nearly naked for Olympic weightlifting, walking on their hands, and flipping tires. They often cheer loudest for the slowest athlete, a reflection of the community's values. Large or geographically spread out communities often create multiple minor temples that allow smaller groups to know each other intimately. For instance, Twitch gaming community members enjoyed live events so much that they created meetup groups in many cities, essentially forming their own minor temples. Stories and symbols. Employees at New Belgium Brewing faced a tough choice. Leadership had discovered they could power the brewery's operations with wind energy. The catch? The deal required a significant cash advance, which they'd already promised as year-end bonuses to employees. Leadership explained the situation to workers, then left the room. After an hour of discussion, every single employee agreed to give up their bonus so the company could switch to clean energy. This example shows how communities use narrative to communicate who they are and what they stand for. Every community depends on stories. Without them, outsiders can't understand who the members are, what they do, or why their work matters. Among the most important community narratives are origin stories, which explain how and why a community began. For example, the Lowell Mothers community started when 12 new mothers met in a church breastfeeding group. Their excitement about connecting led them to create an online support network for babysitting, carpooling, and parenting advice. This story reveals values of mutual support, accessibility, and practical help. Values stories, meanwhile, show how principles play out in real life, like New Belgium's story about employees choosing environmental values over personal bonuses. These stories become evidence that a community's values aren't just empty words. While stories transmit meaning through narrative, symbols serve as powerful visual reminders of community values, identity, and commitment. They conveniently stand in for many words and concepts simultaneously. Symbols work best when they're not too literal, leaving interpretive room to represent multiple evolving ideas. The Marine Corps emblem shows an eagle atop a globe with an anchor through it. This combination clearly isn't literal, yet it powerfully represents the Marines' global reach, naval traditions, and fierce protective spirit. Tokens function as special types of symbols, given to individuals as keepsakes representing accomplishment, belonging, and commitment. The power of tokens comes not from their material value, but from their presentation and meaning. For example, a U.S. State Department officer pins Peace Corps logos on new volunteers' lapels during their swearing-in ceremony. Those inexpensive pins become treasured tokens of initiation and belonging. Inner rings. When Daniel from the Karate Kid enters his final tournament, he's the only competitor wearing a Japanese rising sun headband. That headband marks him as someone who has journeyed through the inner rings of karate mastery. Inner rings, the seventh and final principle in the art of community, speaks to our deep need to feel special, valued, and valuable. Every strong community has an inner ring organization. In the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, for instance, The progression goes from interested seekers to students, joining members, and practitioners, and eventually to mystics and sages. What makes this progression beautiful is that it's not really a hierarchy. It's a mandala where every part is connected to every other part. Mature communities create inner rings designed for service rather than superiority. As you move toward the center rings, your circle of concern grows. What does that mean? Well, a visitor to a community is merely focused on themselves, seeking fun or novel experiences. As they spend more time in the community, they start to care about its local success. Finally, elders concern themselves with everyone in the community everywhere, even the whole world and how the community can serve it. In the Tibetan Buddhist example, new members are concerned about what they can get out of the tradition. The sages in the center are concerned for all beings in the universe. Of course, not every community member necessarily needs to progress through the rings. It's perfectly okay for someone to find the ring that suits them and stay there. However, strong communities all at least offer a path of progression. This path must be both clear and challenging. Difficulty maintains exclusivity while making sure that members develop maturity. In the author's dinner community, advancement requires scheduling time, planning meals, recruiting volunteers, and hosting 4-hour events. Finally, mature communities nurture both external skill development and internal character growth. External skills, like meditation techniques or hosting a dinner, can often be taught. But internal growth happens only through sustained community engagement. Building online communities. Digital platforms add another layer of complexity to community building. It's true that technology comes with strong advantages, enabling people to connect beyond their immediate geography and at large scales. But emotional intimacy is harder to achieve online. Research suggests it takes over 200 hours to build close friendships in person, and possibly twice that online. The things that help regulate our moods and foster cooperation, like eye contact, touch, and even scent, are absent in digital spaces. That doesn't mean online communities can't thrive. It just means they require more intentional design. The most effective digital communities apply traditional community building principles in creative ways. First, they establish clear membership boundaries by requiring prospective members to pay or answer screening questions. This filters out casual browsers. Next, initiatory welcome rituals, such as public introductions or mentor pairings, help newcomers feel anchored. Celebration rituals also help. A healthy community for people with chronic illness might celebrate those who complete daily challenges. Meanwhile, entrepreneurship groups announce major sales milestones. When these moments happen live in real time, they create emotional peaks that bond members and encourage return. Smart community builders treat digital platforms as springboards, not substitutes for deeper connection. Even massive communities like Twitch invest heavily in bringing people together at in-person events. Members crave the opportunity to meet face-to-face and experience the full range of human connection that screens simply can't provide. Finally, remember that communities naturally evolve and sometimes end. This doesn't represent failure. It often just means the group has fulfilled its purpose and enriched its members' lives. Film crews work intensively together for months or years, forming deep bonds and supporting each other through challenges, then dissolve when the project completes. The real measure of community success isn't permanence, it's transformation. Did people grow, connect, and find the belonging they were seeking? If so, the community achieved everything it was meant to accomplish. The main takeaway of this blink to the Art of Community by Charles Vogel is that lasting, meaningful communities are built through intentional design rooted in 7 key principles: boundary, initiation, ritual, temple, story, symbol, and inner rings. Strong communities help people grow, feel seen, and contribute to something larger than themselves. Whether online or in person, the best communities create belonging through generosity and clear paths to get more involved. In the end, it's not about how long a community lasts, but how deeply it transforms its members and the lives they touch. Okay, that's it for this Blink. We hope you enjoyed it. If you can, please take the time to leave us a rating. We always appreciate your feedback. See you soon.